Why fight? Arjuna said, O Janardhana, Krishna, the divine liberator, if, as it seems, you consider understanding superior to action, why, O Kesava, have you been urging me to this terrible action? This apparent contradiction confuses me. Please tell me clearly which path will help me towards the highest good. Arjuna is speaking on behalf of sadhu everyman and playing the part of devil's advocate. Calling Krishna his guru and divine liberator, he says, O Janardhana, I am torn between the two duties you have given me. On the one hand, you tell me to become absorbed in the stillness of spirit. On the other hand, you say, I must fight against my natural foes, my evil tendencies, both for my own good and for the benefit of others. Why can't I simply rest calmly and joyfully in the Supreme Self, as you have also enjoyed? Unfortunately, what is natural for the ego is far from natural for the self or soul. Spiritual progress is achieved not by the dense effort demanded for material success, but rather by a process of upward relaxation. Spiritual progress may be compared to a rising helium balloon. The balloon's ascent is natural and can be prevented only by ropes or by heavy ballast. Devotion and divine aspiration lift the consciousness towards its source in God. Worldly desires and attachment and the habit of directing one's energy flow upward are the ropes and ballast that resist the upwardness of soul inspiration. Efforts on the spiritual path may be compared to cutting the ropes which hold the balloon and pushing ballast out of the basket underneath. It seems contradictory to say that effort should be required at all, since the idea is to attain effortlessness. In fact, however, the divine state can be attained only by serious application, which is a kind of effort. Interestingly, however, that effort also implies relaxation upward with the energy flow in the spine, which rises by a natural buoyancy towards the brain, and were it not for worldly samskaras, ballast would take one ever deeper into meditation. Because worldly achievements generally require stressful effort, many people, when they take up the practice of meditation, try hard also to reach inner calmness. In fact, the key to right meditation is relaxation, physically, emotionally, and mentally. The energy is drawn up the spine in response to another kind of gravity, the upward pull of spirit, which one feels first in the heart and then at the kutastha between the eyebrows, the seat of the spiritual eye. This is the pull of divine love. Its upward pull requires effort on the devotee's part only in the beginning to release it from the downward pull or ballast of material desires. Thus, the symbolism of Kurukshetra as a war is to fight and conquer one's own evil tendencies. The war fought, however, is primarily to rechannel upward the energy in the spine, which so far has activated those downward pulling tendencies. The upward flow of energy releases it from whatever tendencies in the worldly person have been pulling it downward. All the effort one invests spiritually should be in the direction of effortlessness. When efforts end in ease, as Paramhansa Yogananda expressed it. Sometimes it takes a very great effort of will to resist some particular habit or temptation and throw it out of the mind together. A certain man, a true story, wanted for once and for all to overcome his tendency towards alcoholism. One day, finding himself on the point of succumbing once again to that old evil habit, he suddenly became so enraged with himself that he removed from the cabinet all his bottles of whiskey, rum, etc., where he had been keeping them, carried them out of doors and hurled them furiously on the ground. Every bottle was broken, and with their shattering, every attachment to drinking vanished from his consciousness forever. The virtuous devastation was only an outward expression of his inner and very firm emotional renunciation. Usually, such renunciation is accompanied by deep inner calmness, but in this man's case, evidently, emotional revulsion was needed first to break his deep-seated habit. A thorn, the Indian scripture suggests, can be used to extricate another one, after which both thorns may be discarded. Emotional rejection enables this man to uproot the deeply embedded thorn of alcoholism. After his emotional purging, both the emotion and the habit were discarded. The point in this case is that emotion worked and was just what the man needed to free himself forever of his habit. That emotional act too, however, though it demanded both physical and mental effort, may be compared to simply heaving the ballast out of the basket under the balloon so that the balloon can rise of its own buoyancy. Sometimes, as was stated in the Imitation of Christ, a great Christian work which my Guru recommended, one must do violence to his lower nature in the name of ultimate ease. Such violence do not create an increase of tension, for it releases desire and attachment instead of suppressing them. Okay, let me repeat this part. One must do violence to his lower nature in the name of ultimate ease. Such violence do not create an increase of tension, for it releases desire and attachment instead of suppressing them. It should be added that the balloon may, after all disuse, have lost some of its buoyancy gas. The spiritual aspirant must pump his balloon for aspiration again and again with fervent devotion and ever deeper meditation. He must repeatedly return to the compass needle of his attention to the pole star of ultimate divine attainment. Admittedly, to do so requires effort, especially in the beginning. His efforts will be increasingly successful, however, the more he feels that what he is doing is a relaxation upward to the higher self rather than a purpose of driving his thoughts higher by grim willpower. The expression, when efforts end in ease, should be held aloft in the mind constantly like a banner by each meditator. It is the monkey standard, which Arjuna held high to symbolize the control over mental restlessness. The need is not so much to develop love for God as to receive His love, to recognize love and joy as supremely realizable and as therefore the only thing in life worth having. Divine bliss is the most fulfilling of all possible attainment, and therefore the only thing worthwhile to desire. Devotion is simply a response to God's call in the soul. High truths cannot be learned, they can only be remembered in the self. As the ancient sage Patanjali stated, divine enlightenment is attained by a process of smriti, divine recollection. When God is experienced, the soul recognizes what it has always known on deeper than conscious levels of consciousness, its own eternal reality. The spiritual path is full of apparent contradictions. Yogananda told the story of a master who said to a disciple, "You should eat and you should not eat." The disciple quite naturally objected, "Master, what you have said seems to me self-contradictory." "The contradiction," replied the master, "it is in your understanding. My advice is sound. You should feed your body healthfully to keep it alive and well, but you must resist the thought born of ego. I am eating. Tell yourself rather, God is eating through me. Thus too must a person act in this world, not with ego motivation, but as a God-given duty, and with the feeling that he alone indeed is the doer through his instrument."